December 19th, 1999, Birdland, the Saxophone Summit, with Michael Brecker, Joe Lovano, and Dave Liebman, along with Phil Markowitz on piano, Rufus Reed on bass, and the fantastic Billy Hart on drums. At that time, I was working for the Global Music Network for a website called Jazz Plus, and we were going out and recording audio and video and then streaming it and selling it on the web. Unfortunately, we were ahead of the curve because there was no broadband back then, and people weren't watching live video like they do now. I mean, I'm watching streaming webcasts from Smalls almost every night. That's how I'm in touch with what's happening with the music. 1999, few people were watching it. And we did two events live from Birdland. One was the return of the Dave Brubeck Quartet to Birdland. Dave last played there in the early 60s, and there he was 35 years later. He was there again. Bobby Mattiello, how do I pronounce his name? Bobby Mattiello on Now, that Dave Brubeck thing was an extra special thing for me because one of the first jazz artists I ever got into was the Dave Brubeck Quartet in 1964. They came to my high school with Paul Desmond, Joe Morello, and Gene Wright. That was incredible. Music, I was 14 years old. Blew my mind. I've always loved Dave. Wonderful person. I met Darius, his son, at that concert. The Brubeck brothers are continuing in what they do. And interestingly, before we did this webcast, I went to Dave's house in Wilton, Connecticut, to do an interview with him. Incredible house that was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. And Dave was an incredible person, just a wonderful man, very warm, and welcomed me into his home, and a great interview, and incredible house. And we lost Dave. He did have a good, very productive, long life and a wonderful wife and family, and that was a special night at Birdland. Unfortunately, that content was in a storage facility owned by the lawyer, Alan Bergman. When he died, I have no idea what happened to that content. But the Saxophone Summit webcast, I was able to get a video of, and when I set up my YouTube channel, I started posting it. It's gone through a lot of changes. It's not perfect, but shortly after I started my YouTube channel, maybe I don't know, a year later, I started in 2006, maybe 2007 or 8. I forget the exact date. I did a Jazz Video Guy blog about Michael Brecker, and I just found it. I have so many videos on YouTube. I don't really look at them, but one popped up of the Saxophone Summit that night, and also this, and the content from the Saxophone Summit is in this video, along with an interview that I did with Michael and the other guys in the Sax Summit. Well, there was an interview after the gig at Birdland, but 5 years later, I guess it was 2004, the Saxophone Summit was playing at the IAJE conference in New York, those fantastic events they used to have where 15,000 people would show up, students and people from the world of jazz musicians. And they played that night. And they had also recorded for Telarc Records. And I did the liner notes for the recording. And this was when video was new in terms of it was just getting on the web. Streaming was just happening. So Telarc Records enlisted my services to do an interview with the guys, and some of that interview shows up on here, which I think you'll find interesting. But what is really interesting is that video that I did the interviews for Telarc Records was the catalyst for me to become the Jazz Video Guy, because this was in 2004. They sent me the finished promo that they put together with my interview clips, and it was horrible. I mean, I felt really bad about it because here were these guys, they had something interesting to say, and whoever produced the video obviously didn't know what they were doing. And I went to NYU Film School. I mean, I've done a lot of film projects in my life. I stopped making films for a while because it was just too expensive. But in 2004, after I saw this video, things were different. There was the mini DV cam, which was a small camcorder. Didn't cost a lot of money. There was editing on a computer, and there was now streaming video. And a year after that experience, a year and a half after the video experience, YouTube arrived, free, unlimited global distribution. So in 2004, I was doing websites. I was producing websites for Sonny Rollins and Joe Lovano and Billy Taylor and Denny Zeitlin and Hendrik Merkens and a bunch of people. And I said, why don't I get a camera and start shooting some video? And that was the beginning of the Jazz Video Guy thing, which now almost 30 million views, thousands of videos, 167 countries watching these things. So because somebody fucked up on a video at Telearch Record, Jazz Video Guy was born. Anyway, I'm reposting this blog. This was before high def. It doesn't look so great. I was still getting my feet wet in terms of producing these videos, but I think you'll like it. It's always great to hear the Saxophone Summit, my friends Michael and David and Joe. When they played together, it wasn't a saxophone battle. It was a love-in where they were inspired by each other and encouraged each other, and the music they played was really special, as we captured that night from December 19th, 1999. I'm Brett Premack, and this is my video blog, Bird Lives. I'm recording this at the beginning of February, about 3 weeks after the passing of Michael Brecker, and 11 months before the final day of the administration of Baby Bush. On January 20th, 2008 at noon, the boy emperor will leave office.
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
The first time I heard Michael Brecker was actually at the end of the Nixon administration on a Horace Silver recording, In Pursuit of the 27th Man. There was a track on there that I still treasure, Gregory Is Here. And when I heard Michael's tenor saxophone solo, it tore the top of my head off.
Who is this guy?
In the early 90s, I actually sat down with Michael and Randy and did a cover story for Jazz Times magazine. That was the first time I really got to know Michael. And then through the 90s, I did a bunch of interviews with him. One was for Jazz Central Station, one of the first big jazz websites that I worked on. Those interviews are up on YouTube now. You'll see a link from my Bird Lives page. And I also produced a web concert. Webcast. I forgot it for a second. Webcast. Saxophone Summit live at Birdland. The group with Michael Brecker, David Liebman, and Joe Lovano. This was an incredible event full of musical dynamite.
I don't think I would fare well in the traditional saxophone battle thing. And this has, for me, never been about that. We all have very strong personalities on our instruments and pretty well-formed musical sensibilities at this point in our lives, and feel pretty secure about that. And what we're trying to do when we get together is really create a matrix, really kind of beautiful matrix that reflects our personalities, the differences in our personalities, yet makes this kind of beautiful experience for the audience and for us. I feel certainly, unbelievably stronger when we're finished these runs of gigs. I walk away feeling strong, and I also I like who I become when I'm around Dave and Joe and the guys in the rhythm section. I like who I become, musically. There's a shift that occurs for me that happens, and I try and hold on to that. And it's not that I don't like who I was before, but it's just an extra dimension that I try and grasp and hold on to and bring back to the groups that I'm normally playing with, and it does work. The shift is noted, and I think the other guys pick up on it. And this is a mutual giving and taking sort of organization, and we come away, we put in a lot and we take away a lot, and it's very gratifying. And as Dave's saying, I feel always stronger after these concerts are finished, and greatly gratified.
I did those interviews at the IAJE conference in January of 2004, and soon after that Michael got sick, 4 or 5 months later. He began to have symptoms, and I won't go into the details. You can read that, find out about that elsewhere, but he got very sick. Life-threatening illness. Something that no one could have predicted. That's the way life is. Things happen to good people, unfairly, unexpectedly, at any place, at any time. The only thing we can do is work on our attitude. Because the larger things, the bigger things in this life, we really have no control over. The only thing we can control is how we react to them. I've known a number of heroes in my life. I've been very lucky to know some men and women who showed that kind of bravery against incredible odds, be it battling illness or for a political cause. And it was the same with Michael and his music and his life. He played with a commitment, and he fought for his life with bravery against unbelievable odds.
I still listen to other saxophone players tremendously. I listen to everybody I can. I listen to other, not just saxophone players, and I glean ideas from other people. It doesn't all come from my brain. I hear things. I'll put something on, figure it out. I'll go back. I'm still I'm amazed with McCoy Tyner still. Listen to Coltrane, Joe Henderson, Sonny Rollins. These are all just such great inspirations. Particularly Joe Henderson, John Coltrane, Sonny Rollins are still tremendous influences. I am always trying to learn new things and trying to learn new bits of language. So I work on, to some degree, on sound and on equipment. I try different, pieces of equipment and stuff. But beyond that, I make up exercises. If I have an idea, I try and put it in every key. Like for instance, right now I'm working on the certain kind of relationships of triads, and then it's hard to explain in a quick moment, but I do things in different inversions. I try and get all over the horn. I have books and books of exercises that I've made up, but I don't write the exercises out completely. I'll write out just the idea, and then I try and do it in my head. That actually comes from an approach that I was taught by a gentleman named Gary Campbell many years ago, a great saxophonist who lives in Miami. So I'm always working on new ideas. It takes me a long time. I'm very slow to get new things, new harmonic ideas to actually translate into my playing. It's sometimes a period of months. Sometimes it takes learning something real well and then forgetting about it, and eventually it comes out. I then also just play. Just play tunes alone, or I have musicians over occasionally and we play, or I just play. And I'm always playing live, so. But the practicing part of it is very important for me. It's not just lip service. I have to practice, or I feel like I haven't. I feel like I've shirked my responsibility.
Is it a daily thing?
It's pretty much a daily thing. There are periods when I'm doing it better than others. There's sometimes where it's just maintenance practicing, where I'm just, doing the least I have to do just to keep everything well oiled. And then there's periods of true growth. I see music as a spiritual endeavor. I mean, that's what has always attracted me to it. Ever since, I think the transitional point for me with that was hearing the music of Coltrane, was really what propelled me into thinking about music on a spiritual level, and making it a part of my sort of everyday existence. And of course, that music led me for a while into listening to Indian music, and that one thing led to another, and I began to approach music sort of on a spiritual level. There are things that one has to be pragmatic, in learning the tools of, musical tools and everything. But essentially, what keeps me going is the sense of spiritual searching and a serenity, I think, that I get from it ultimately. And it's something that is, I think related to the arts and creativity in general, but it also, I think music stands out as a way to directly be able to actively pursue spiritual matters, in a kind of a finite way that's not maybe directly related to prayer or meditation, but it's actually something that I can go out and do and get a tremendous degree of satisfaction and enjoyment from it, but also that it exists on a spiritual level. The interaction with other musicians it becomes nonverbal. The communication with the audience becomes nonverbal. You can communicate music to anyone, anywhere in the world, because no language is involved. It becomes colors, shapes, feelings, emotions, and things of that nature. The thing that attracts me to this way that we've been playing is that the fact that it's done communally in a way that's sort of a celebration of the present moment, of any present moment. It's the only kind of chance I've ever had to do that back when we were playing in the lofts, and the way we're doing it now, where this thing occurs, where we're able to express our own personalities, but in a way that's part of a grander scheme. And we don't know what's going to come out. The music is truly improvised, and we're doing it in a very intimate way that's extremely powerful. And what happens is that the sum sort of exceeds all of the parts, and it's very different every night, and it's had a very interesting impact on the audience, because there are people that have been at these gigs. I don't know why I'm bringing. I have a friend who had never heard any jazz at all. He's a friend of mine who's a butcher. I don't know if this is. But he had come to see me play, and he was going to hear a jazz gig, and we played this completely unconservative out way that we played. And he and his wife and the friends that he brought I thought that they were going to run out of the joint, but they were amazed and loved it. So there's something that communicated in a very powerful way to his heart. And I've been noticing that consistently with the audiences that have come to hear us play. And yes, as Dave said and Joe said, it is a way that's very unconventional and is certainly not accepted, or at least difficult to accept. That's hard for, I think, people that are not used to hearing, or that have conservative ways of listening to music to be able to understand music like this. And as I think Coltrane experienced the same thing in the time that, and musicians he played with in the time that they performed their music. basically, I hope that the music that I'm making is communicating in some kind of uplifting way. I'm a perpetual student. I'm always trying to learn new things. I never feel like I have anything together. I'm always taking lessons and trying to, fill in holes and also find avenues that are interesting to explore artistically and musically. I think that that's the main vehicle for me to hopefully inspire others.
As the years tick on here, the cast of characters in my life is changing. The cultural icons are leaving. A lot of my friends are passing. And the memories, of course, remain. But the memories and the music from these incredible creators like John Coltrane and Michael Brecker is something that will never leave me. They will never die.